Hi guys. So I know I already posted a video on Moodle, but I did mess up a little bit. I focused on the wrong video. I focused on the TED Talk instead of the July 64. So I wrote everything down here on my thoughts of the July 1964 video, and I'm just going to read it out loud. And yes, here we go. So 1964 was the year after President Kennedy and Medgar Evers were assassinated. 1964 was also the year a cultural revolution began. For example, Beatles arrived in New York City for the first time. And in 1964 was also the year after Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech was presented. So the civil rights movement was in full drive. Then there was the summer of '64 in Rochester, New York. Rochester was one northern city destination for African Americans fleeing the Jim Crow South. It quickly became a major corporate hub between the 50s and the 60s. With the population growing by 300%, it became rich. 10,000 jobs went unfilled during the time. However, many companies such as Kodak would not hire African Americans unless it was a quote-unquote behind a broom. Rochester resisted building public houses, and there was little, if any, housing opportunities for African Americans. Underneath the prosperity, the issue of police brutality festered in Rochester in 1964. Police brutality became synonymous with police dogs. It all came to a boil on July 24th, 1964, on a Friday night. There was a big block party on Joseph Street, and the police showed up with dogs to break it up. The police used excessive force. Allegedly, a child was bitten by a dog, and allegedly, a pregnant woman was slapped. Soon, there was a physical confrontation involving blacks, whites, police, and police dogs. Fires were set, and shops were broken down, businesses were looted, and cars were flipped over. This film shows the consequences of racism and the rage it provokes. Years of prejudice and discrimination came to a head one summer night, 1964 in Rochester. And as a result, businesses closed, residents left the city. Everyone in town was a loser. The conclusion we can draw is that if people, black and white, had been treated decently and equally to one another, much, much pain and destruction would have been avoided. There was hate in the aftermath. How many years would it take for trust and mutual goodwill to return, or if ever? The lesson is that there is not enough time to build bridges, and there's too little time to burn them. July 1964 is an example of what happens when there is no dialogue among communities in order to create one community. And what I've noticed is that the whites that were being interviewed in 1964, they seemed clueless as to the racism felt by blacks every day. They didn't see or feel it. And what I thought was worse was that the whites, when they were being interviewed, the same people being interviewed again in 2004, they thought that racism had practically gone away. And I believe that being clueless will never bring progress. Social workers, so this is how social workers are involved in this situation. Social workers are made for the situation in Rochester in 1964 and today. The role of social workers is one of bridge builders. They help people cross from one side to the other. Otherwise, we are locked in to repeat mistakes, intentionally or not. And I do believe that history does repeat itself, because just like the riots in July of 1964, it reminded me very similarly to what is happening today, for example, of George Floyd and the whole act of Black Lives Matter. And I feel like it is because of police brutality and two sides not coming together as a community. Thank you for listening.